Hi, everybody. I am so happy to come to you today with a special friend and actually somebody who saved my life. I don't know that you can often say that about a lot of people, but I can say that about this gentleman. Dr. Andrew Pruitt is a cardiothoracic surgeon at St. Joe Hospital, and he's very renowned and had a very long and successful career. And I'm going to let him actually talk a little bit about that. But we're so blessed to have him on today's program. One of the reasons that I had asked Dr. Pruitt is so many friends in franchising, and so many of our folks have knew about my heart surgery in February and were wondering about my recovery. And so I thought, well, let's talk about the recovery. Let's talk about what happened and what it was all about. And who better to talk about that than the surgeon himself that saved my life. And so, Dr. Pruitt, hey, thank you so much for being with us today.
No, thank you. Always glad to talk. You know me.
Yeah. All right, great. Well, first, I'd like to know, not everybody just grows up and says, "Oh, I'm going to be a heart surgeon," and then they become a heart surgeon. So, how did
Correct.
that?
Okay. The first thing we have to get the ground rules set before we
Okay,
get started. Okay. There's ground rules when I'm speaking, if I haven't
okay,
told you this already. So the ground rules are about half of what I say is grossly exaggerated. All right. And the rest of it is complete fabrication. So your job is to determine which is which. Okay.
so,
When we start out, do not make any, decisions based on what I say here today without
okay.
checking the facts, is all I'm saying to you.
Okay.
So
Now,
how do
now,
you,
everybody, you see why I love this guy?
you got context, right? When you're reading the Bible, we'll just jump to that one too. My dad said, "There's three things you need to know, son." And what are they, Dad? Context, context, context. So we always have to start and lay down what you're into. So
That's
that's where
perfect.
how did I become a heart surgeon? Uh, the grace of God. I like to use that a lot too when I talk to people because I firmly believe that for whatever reason, the Lord set me on this path. He gave me what I needed to be a heart surgeon and kept from me things that would lead me somewhere else, which was a good, perfect sense, perfect common sense by the Lord, and none from me. From the time I can remember, Todd, everybody around me said, "You're going to be a doctor when you grow up," and I'm like, "Sure." So even in grade school, I remember teachers and everybody, "You're going to be a doctor, right?" "Sure, I'm going to be a doctor." Fast forward, I go off to college, so I'm going to pre-med. But when I was growing up, there was a show, and you're my age, and so you remember the show called Quincy. Did you ever
Yes.
watch
Yeah,
Quincy? Yeah.
I
So what
did.
was he was a pathologist. He was
Right.
a forensic pathologist, and that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to be a pathologist. I said, "Yeah, I'm going to go and I'm going to be a pathologist." And so basically I go to med school and that's what I'm thinking. And shorten the story a little bit, a couple things happened, but one, I did a surgery rotation and it was just bam. I was a little bit intimidated, believe it or not, by the thought of surgery. And everybody talked about, oh, surgical rotation, it's awful, they'll work you to death and yada, yada. And you know what? I had the opposite experience. I signed up for it first. We had sort of an ability to choose what rotations you did and when we were third year, when you go from sitting in a classroom for 2 straight years, you sit in a classroom 8 hours a day, and then all of a sudden, boom, you're out in the real world on the hospital floors and in the clinics. And I said, I'm just going to get this surgery. I want to be a pathologist. And so off I go to surgery, and I just basically fell in love with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of how that happened. And then I will tell you, the first time I saw a heart operation, I knew that's exactly what kind of surgery that I needed to do. And I'll never forget that experience. And I was actually on vacation at home, believe it or not. I left school. I had a few weeks over Christmas holiday, a couple of weeks. And because I grew up in a small Kentucky town, everybody knew everybody. And by this time, people knew I wanted to be a surgeon. And my good friends was the chief nurse at our little hospital, and she said, "We have a new heart surgeon who trained at Duke, and then he was at the University of Louisville, and he came and started our program a few years ago. He loves students, and would you like to go see heart surgery if you're interested in surgery?" "Sure." And I show up, and he's like, "You've done surgery before?" I said, "Yes, sir." "You've never seen heart surgery?" "No." "Well, why don't you wash your hands? We'll let you hold the heart." And so, scrub up, jump in there, and there's a beating, living heart right there in front of me. We put it to sleep, wake it up. And so I was hooked. And instead of having vacation, basically every day for 2 weeks on my vacation, I went back and operated with this gentleman. And that's when I was hooked, Todd. And I knew that's what I
Wow.
was going to do for the rest of my life. So,
So in doing that, did you end up having to do a fellowship in heart? I mean,
oh,
because
yeah,
you have such a specialty, did you go right into residency for heart, or did you have to do
no.
continue to advance?
Yeah, in my day, you finished med school and we all matched in, and you have to match in what's called general surgery back in that time. So I actually had
Okay.
to become a general surgeon first, and that was 5 years of training for that. And then about halfway through that, if you wanted to do heart surgery, plastic surgery, there were a few surgical subspecialties, and you had to
Okay.
keep going and do some more surgery. And so about halfway, I applied for heart surgery positions, basically heart
Okay.
surgery. They called them fellowships, but residencies, whatever. And so then 2 more years of heart surgery, then you're a heart surgeon. And then I came to Ann Arbor, and I've been
I
here, and that
got
was
you.
1997. I've been here ever since.
Okay. So you've been doing surgeries 28 years. Yeah. I think when I was
Well,
in your office, well, first of all, when I met you for the first time, I had been referred from Michigan Heart. They said, "Hey, your situation's pretty serious, and we could talk about it in a minute. If I say the diagnosis, I'll screw it up. If you say it, you'll be right on the money."
I'll back
But
you
it
up,
was
man. Shoot, go for it. I'll just, they won't know.
so yeah. I'll have the portion of the exaggeration though, and that'll be the
Yeah, it'll
problem.
fit the rule. It'll be fine.
So at the time, the cardiologist had said, "Hey, I've got to send you to the cardiothoracic surgeon." And he said, "I think you may need open heart." And I mean, when you hear that and you're like, "Say that again? What? I need open heart." And you can probably explain what was the issue with my mitral valve.
Yeah, so your valve has two jobs. It's supposed to open and let blood flow through, then it's supposed to close so that the blood doesn't go right back where it came from, and yours would not close. Basically, almost half of the blood that had passed through that valve went back the other way. And so over time, your heart will just fail. It's not a sustainable situation. And people begin to have symptoms like you were, or have atrial fibrillation, that abnormal heart rhythm. Typically 2 to 5 years is the end of you maximum. And so, and you never know where that's going to be in those 2 to 5 years.
Yeah, I had no idea that it was like a 50-50 risk of heart attack, stroke, or death within the next 2 years.
Yeah, it was going to happen to you. It's just a matter of time.
Yeah,
Fortunately, you grew up in a time, or you live in an age where this is fairly commonplace. And so we were able to we repair these valves, we make them where they close again. And we were able to take care of your atrial fibrillation. There's a procedure for that as well, so that your heart rhythm is back to normal. And fixing your valve helps the rhythm stay normal too. The valve leakage directly can lead to this rhythm problem that you are having. So
yeah.
yeah, it worked out pretty well. With my recollection, you recovered quite well. A lot of people praying for you, so we knew it was going to go well.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that is one of the neat things. I had put a message out on that Friday before the Monday, and had 350 people respond with a message either on Facebook or LinkedIn that they were praying for me, and it was very clear that not only were your hands in it, and it was very, very important to me that I had a surgeon who was a Christian who uh, was doing the work. But it was also interesting that it went through so much of a interesting, even a miraculous healing. I remember talking to you, and I was feeling pretty good the day or two after surgery, and it was all systems up. I was up walking around. I had so many of these folks praying for me. I could feel their prayers. But then one morning you had walked in and you shared with me that it was a real head scratcher because the ejection fraction, which is a measurement that they had taken before and after surgery, that mine was only 30, which is like a half of the function where you want it to be. And so maybe you can talk a little bit about that
Sure.
because I felt like I was recovering well. I was up walking around feeling good.
Yeah, you look good. And you felt good because now, even though your heart performance looked worse, it was probably the same. And I can explain that in a minute. And now it's even though it's not a normally functioning heart. It's efficient because that blood's not going back and forth. And so you're going to feel better even though your ejection fraction. Now, the other way to look at that, a normal, what's called an ejection fraction is 65%. So when your heart fills with blood and then it squeezes that blood out, it doesn't squeeze out all of it. It would lock up. It's a pump and it would just lock up. So it leaves 30 to 40% behind as a primer for the next, to fill again and then pump. So 65%. And that's why when yours was 30, that's about half normal. But if you think back of what we just talked about earlier, about half of that blood, when your heart was trying to squeeze it out to the body, was going backwards back into your lungs. And so even though it looked like, yeah, your heart was squeezing out 60% before surgery, guess what? Half of that was going back the wrong way. And so when we shut that valve off or made that close, all of a sudden there's only 30% going this way. Does that make sense to you? You had 30%
Yes.
going the right way, 30% going the back way, which is 60% empty, but it's not going the right way. So fortunately, though, and some people are left with that, sadly, over time, but fortunately, your heart kind of got the message and we caught it early enough that it was able to remodel, we call it, and function normally. And yours happened very quickly, yeah, somewhat miraculous for sure.
Well, the crazy part was you said, I'm up walking around talking to people, which of course, I have to talk to people. And so I'm out wandering the halls talking to nurses. And you said, gosh, you're feeling so good. And then you ordered another echocardiogram on Thursday morning. And that came back 55, which was in the normal range, and back up. And so I just was so thankful for the healing and for all the prayers and for your work. It was just amazing. Um, which brings me to another question. One of the things that I sat in your office and I said, well, I am kind of nervous about the open heart, but it was a choice. We talked about doing it minimally invasive or open heart and how to do it. And you said, hey, I think I can do a full and complete repair, which you did, which is so awesome, with open heart. And so you had a line. You told me you've got this. You said my part's no problem. You said I've got this. And then you said, do you remember what you said to me?
So you're going to lose a knife fight or something? Is that what I told you?
You said that
I'm going to win.
No, you said you've got your part. The surgery will be
Yeah,
no problem. You said I just have to survive a knife fight.
that sounds right. That sounds like something. I hope I didn't tell you that. I close my eyes too. I don't even open them anymore. It's been so long, and I just pray and close my eyes, and then I open them up, and we're done. When we say
You
Amen,
can
we're
just
done.
do
We
it
just open our eyes.
in your sleep now.
No, I'm not doing anything. That's what I'm trying to tell you.
I gotcha. I gotcha. Well, it certainly was a wonderful recovery and just miraculous that the heart was functioning. And then once my recovery was complete in May, I was taken off any medications. And so I'm probably back to full workouts and I've been very, very active and blood pressure, everything is all wonderful and great. And I'm unmedicated. I don't have any medications. And so it's,
That's awesome right there. That's the best part. Yeah. Isn't that awesome?
God is good. Well, I am curious, being a person of faith and being a surgeon in the medical establishment. I mean, how often do you see miracles or things like that? First of all, it's a miracle that we can do what we're doing and that you can do a clip and put a thing in and have space age material and sew that together and get a valve working again. That'll probably live beyond me. That's a miracle in itself, for sure. There's the work, God working through your hands. But how often do you see healings and things like that are just, amazing?
Yeah, so I'm going to answer that in two ways. I will tell you that I've done plenty of operations and we've walked away and we've just said, no way, but by the grace of God, this person is going to make it through this. And they do, either from what we find or how horribly wrong it goes or you name it. You know what I mean? It's just, and we step back and we say, this is the end of this. And certainly it does happen that sometimes but sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it's like, and it's like we say in the South, well, it's not his time. And sometimes I just believe that it's just not our timeline that we think and that we think we're control and we're not. in some ways. I think we do have free will and we make decisions and they impact, how long you live, certainly, and things, but there is something to this. There are things that happen without a doubt that just shouldn't be, from what we can explain anyway. And yeah, I feel like I've seen plenty over the years, Todd, of things because we don't know everything, and the more time passes, I'm more convinced that we know less than we think we do. Oh, we've got so much knowledge, and honestly, I feel like the more we learn, the more we realize what we don't know. And then the
Yeah.
other way I'll answer that is, in my work, to me, it feels like every day is a miracle in some ways. There's really no, when you get down to the science of it, there's no rationale of why life exists. It's funny, there's some old Marvel movie. I was watching one of those, Marvel Avengers or something, and I can't remember which one it was. The guy was talking about how that alive or dead, the molecules, the atoms, everything is the same. There's no difference in you alive or dead. So what is the life part of you? From a purely substantive, what are you made of? Water and atoms, and we are just like any other matter. And what makes us alive and what makes us dead? And so to me, that's miraculous all day, every day when you're walking around. There's in the New Testament, none of us should be doubters because he is everywhere in the world. The evidence is everywhere. All you got to do is open your eyes and look. And so that's
Yeah.
kind of where I am with miracles. I think just us walking around in a way is a miracle.
Amen. Well, yeah, that's awesome because so many times folks can get lost in science and be as educated as you are, a top surgeon in the country, and then start to believe that we've evolved, or all the other theories, and it almost takes more belief to believe in some of those crazy theories that we evolved from something than it is to serve an incredible creator who put that life in us and created us. And so that's a pretty special thought that the molecules are the same, but something
Yeah.
breathed life into those molecules, and that is our creator. I know one thing, coming back to when we had met, obviously with a healthier heart and a recovery and working through all that, I'm feeling great, and I've lost weight. But in fact, I think I'm probably about 20 pounds less than what I was when I first met you. But one of the questions I had asked you was, I said, okay, you got your part. You're going to take care of the surgery. I got it. I got to survive the knife fight. So I said, how do I train? How can I train for this surgery so I'm the healthiest, even though I've got blood going back into my lungs and I'm getting winded, which wasn't the easiest, but how do I train for this? You had an immediate answer, and you mentioned no seed oils. You told me on my diet that my
Yeah.
diet needed to be 50 to 70% from fat and calories, which I was always kind of a keto guy. I've always been kind of on a keto diet all my life. But you said no nitrate bacon. You said eggs. You said everything that grass-fed beef. Go get yourself a good grass-fed steak. No
Yeah.
seed oils, and
Right.
you laid out a diet for me that you rarely hear from a cardiothoracic surgeon. Let me just say that, especially in today's world where some of the things I just mentioned, eggs and grass-fed beef, have gotten a bad rap by the
Yeah.
American Heart Association, right? And so maybe
Right.
talk to us a little bit about some of your thoughts on that.
Yeah. So that's an interesting. Did I look at you and say you don't know what you've said? You don't know, because a few people asked me that. I said, "Are you serious?" Because what I'm about to tell you, I'm not sure if you can do. And some of them look at me, or I tell them, "Oh, that's a can of worms you've opened. Do you want to go down that?" And maybe I didn't say that to you. You may have been more earnest than people, because I hear that a lot, right? What can I do? What can
I
I
was
do?
ready to jump right on it.
Yeah.
I loved it. Yeah.
And so when people ask me that, I give it to them with both barrels, as you know. And, America makes it easy to eat a pro inflammatory diet. And the heart lung machine and the nature of heart surgery is an injury. And it tips off inflammation in your body more so than most any other injury you can go through. I don't know if you knew that. There's very few things as stressful on the total body than having heart surgery and being on that heart lung machine.
I have
So
a fairly good understanding of it now.
I'm sure. Yeah, yeah. So that
having
hangover,
gone
right?
through it.
That total body hangover that people get. Well, the less inflammatory fuel that there is in the form of this, you can minimize your inflammatory diet, the better off you are as far as being able to take. You don't want gasoline laying around while you're, lighting candles. And so we were going to light candles. And so you remove the gasoline. And to me, that's the pro-inflammatory things that are just in our diet, and they're ubiquitous in our diet. And so, yeah, there's two things. I think it is these bad oils, bad fats that we eat. And number two, too many carbohydrates, and too many of the wrong carbohydrates is probably sugar. Let's just call it what it is, too much sugar. Or there's carbohydrates that have good nutrients and are good for you. But I don't know if did I give you this quiz. There are three macronutrients, right, Todd? There's protein, fat, and carbohydrates. We all know that. And you're supposed to have so much fat, so much carbohydrates, so much protein, and every diet is a little different. You mentioned keto. By definition, keto is sort of less than 50 grams of carbohydrates a day. How many grams of carbohydrates does your body need to get by on? What's the bare minimum you can have carbohydrates to live and to keep going in this world? Do you know the answer to that?
I don't. I mean, I could guess it at zero, I
Yeah, it is
suppose.
zero. That's exactly right.
Yeah, because your
Yeah,
body will
most
go
people,
ahead and make glucose, right?
if you eat fat and protein, your body can make all the carbs that you need. Now, I'm not saying that's a good way to live. I don't think it is. I think the diet that you read about that I told you to go to buy a book, she stresses variety. And she stresses a couple of things. Variety is one, stay away from the oils you mentioned. And you can find them in her book. You can find them online. They're called the Hateful Eight. And there's 8 substances. And it's not just, a cooking oil in this, but there, as you found out, when you go through your kitchen, they're everywhere. These things are preservatives that are put in everything packaged. So you got to stay
Right.
away from those. Your carbohydrates should be vegetables for the most part. And this is where diabetics fall down. And I think where a lot of diet advice falls down. I have so many diabetics come in and say, well, they tell me to eat fruits and vegetables. And so when you ask them exactly what they're eating and they go down the list, they're eating a lot of fruit and they're eating a lot of sugar as a result, and not really vegetables, or at least too much sugar. And sometimes you just get the fruit, believe it or not. And it's healthy, right? And it's not if you're diabetic. It's not. There are a few fruits that are what's called low glycemic index, but most of them are loaded, man. And you ask anybody who wears one of these, glucose monitors and goes and eats a banana, man, they'll tell you it goes through the roof. And then bread, they're eat multigrain bread, make sure you eat the right, but I tell them to stay off of bread. It's just, most bread today is just not good. At any rate, you're right. I push, your carbs, mostly vegetables, stay away from these seed oils, and variety as much as you can so you get all the nutrients. That's what's key to keep your body healthy, and it cuts down your inflammation. You feel better.
Yeah.
Did you
Yeah.
start to feel better even when you were changing your diet?
I started to feel better immediately. Within those first 2 weeks, it was unbelievable. I felt so much better. In fact, I had a little bit of a knees that were starting to ache. I've never really had an injury or any reason for them to ache other than just being you're getting older. And my knee ache went away. Then in recovery, I had very, very little pain, very little inflammation, very little
Yeah.
swelling. And they gave me these socks compression socks. Oh, yeah, your ankles will swell and all that. My legs, my ankles, nothing ever swelled. It was just amazing. I think I had about 6 weeks to prep before. I had lost probably 7 or 8 pounds doing that. The book, you didn't even make me buy a book. You gave me a copy of your book out of your office. You
I
walked
got a few
into
others.
Sue's office and you gave me a copy, which was really nice. And so the book was called Dark Calories by Kate Shanahan, in case anybody wants to read that book. But what I've done since is more of like a Mediterranean diet with all the olive oils and good grass fed meats and chicken and lots of salads, making sure I'm getting a lot of the veggies. And then I do eat the occasional fruit, but I'll eat it toward the end of the meal. So I'll start with the salad, then my protein, and then I wear a continuous glucose monitor. And so, yeah, my A1C has been like 5.1, which is fantastic.
Beautiful.
My average glucose is 98. I never spike above 140. So I keep the spikes
So
down.
Todd, have you like done some experimentation and say like I'm gonna eat this banana before and then like you put it at the end of your meal and it's different, isn't it?
It is.
I'm
It
gonna give
is.
you another hint too.
In fact, if I take a glass of wine, have nothing
Hmm.
on my stomach, and I start with a wine, which so many people do, oh, let's have a drink, and they
Yeah,
serve it right away in the
yeah.
restaurant. And man, oh man, that baby starts to send way up. You hold off and have a little patience, a little conversation. You let your salad come, you let your meat come, and then you have that glass of wine with dinner, and your spike is undetectable. I
I'm
mean,
gonna give you
just
another hint. We do it backwards too in America. I eat my salad at the end. Eat your
it's a
fat and your protein first. It slows
okay,
everything down. And
right,
then, so like at home, my wife, why do you eat that salad last? And I explained it to her more than once, but she likes her. It's in a habit, right? But I'd be
right.
curious if you switched order once, you have to do it at home. They're like, you're probably not going, hey, bring my meat first. They may not do that, but it'd be worth a shot. I'd be curious because if you get the protein and the fat first and then eat your salad, I mean, salad probably doesn't make it go up that high, though, does it?
No, salad isn't going to really spike it. And then your body, you're exactly right, Doc. Your body reacts to what you eat first. And so the salad isn't going to really spike it. So you wouldn't have to do the meat before. But if you did the meat before the wine and you got protein and fat in there, that would have the same effect on the wine.
Yeah.
So your body, for whatever reason, can handle it better. Or, no wine at all, but who wants to do that? So, anyway.
Yeah, you got to live a little bit.
That's right. That's right. Well, now
And
that I
I
got this
firmly,
new heart and I'm going to live to be 100.
exactly. Yeah, and if it's Halloween, come on, well, a candy bar with the worst possible. You got to have at least one of the little guys, right? It's okay, just one of those little fun size. It's fun
Right.
size. That's why it says fun. It's fun on it. It's fun size.
It's got to be fun.
Yeah.
Well, hey, Doc, it's been such a pleasure spending time with you and sharing some of your thoughts and wisdom with everybody and the recovery and sharing your heart, sharing your faith, which is so important. I appreciate our friendship and thank you again for saving my life.
By the grace of God, Todd, go we, not me. Had nothing to do with it, but I appreciate the thoughts. But I really feel like, again, I was put here and it was nothing I've done, but thanks for that.
Well, you're a blessing to many. In fact, I just recently heard that you've decided to sign up. You were talking about retiring this next year, and you signed up for a couple more years. And so I can't imagine all the folks and the lives that will be blessed by having you continuing to do your work. So thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you very much. Good chatting with you. Anytime.
Great.